Okay, I'm really excited for today's topic, 3 hidden truths that your doctor hopes you never find out about adrenal fatigue. And it's going to be maybe some information you've heard before, but hopefully it's information you haven't heard before. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and today we're going to talk to you about these 3 truths. The first truth is going to be about the fact that there is no thing as adrenal fatigue. Number 2 is the fact that it goes deeper than the adrenal fatigue. And number 3, doctors aren't working at their full capacity when it comes to adrenal fatigue. So these are rather controversial subjects, but it's a controversial topic. And it's a epidemic, it's a pandemic. People are exhausted, people are burnt out, people are unable to handle stress, they're overwhelmed, they're in sympathetic fight or flight, they deal with anxiety or overwhelm for no reason, or for a reason that they don't understand. All of a sudden, life got overwhelming and they don't really see it happening in terms of what was the reason. So what we want to do is we want to give you the reasons as to what doctors aren't telling you that can make a huge impact when you know the answers to these. So the first one is there is no such thing as adrenal fatigue. Doctors feel this way. Now, that doesn't mean I don't feel that there isn't such thing as adrenal fatigue. It means in doctors' minds, they feel that there's no such thing as an adrenal fatigue problem. It's not taught in medical school. It's not in the peer-reviewed journals. There's no definition when it comes to research in terms of fatigue. And when they do a test called an ACTH stimulation test, very seldom do the adrenals not respond. And when they don't respond, it is an insufficiency problem. It's an autoimmune problem called Addison's disease. And it's either black or white. There's no such thing as adrenal fatigue to the medical doctor. And when that's the case, the person that doesn't have a positive ACTH test, that's exhausted and burnt out, your condition doesn't exist. And that's unfortunate because your condition does exist. What you're dealing with is real. You having focus and concentration problems is real. You not being able to have energy throughout the day is real. You peeing every 10 seconds is real. You having very low libido and not having a lot of motivation and not being able to exercise and having intolerance and you just not being on a rhythm with the sun and the earth and the moon and the stars, meaning you're tired in the morning and you're wide awake at night, your circadian rhythm is off. When you have a negative ACTH stimulation test, there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue. So I am one that advocates changing the name because in theory, technically speaking, your adrenal fatigue isn't a fatigue issue if you're having a positive ACTH, a negative ACTH test. And English meaning when they give you the hormone that is made by your brain to stimulate your adrenals to mount a response, and your adrenals mount a response, that's a negative test. But I've always said the problem with that theory is you're assuming that the pituitary is making ACTH. And not only that, you're assuming that the cells are listening to the messages that the adrenals make in response to being stimulated with ACTH. And you're assuming that there's feedback loops. And you're assuming that the nutrients are available to be used as cofactors. And you're assuming that cells are communicating to each other. And you're assuming that your microbiome is healthy, and you're assuming that you're detoxing, and you're assuming that your electrolytes are balanced, and you're assuming that you're producing energy in other forms of the body. And those things aren't happening. So that's the first thing that I would say is one of the truths is that doctors hope you don't know is that they don't want you to know that just because the baby is being thrown out with the bathwater and in their minds there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue, there can't be other things going on that relate to the stress response, that relate to the integrity of the adrenal, the HPA axis, and everything that's involved in its glory can be functioning well as well. It could be not functioning well, and it isn't functioning well. And the medical model and the paradigm isn't set up to identify and or ask the questions or spend the time to figure it out. Number two, it goes much deeper than the adrenals. And unfortunately, a lot of functional medicine doctors, holistic doctors, nutritionists, acupuncturists, chiros are guilty for this as well. And the reason that is because when I get on the phone with you guys and you tell me it's your adrenals because you've never heard of it, you researched it, you found out you want to just fix the adrenals, it goes deeper than the adrenals, right? We just finished talking that sometimes the brain may not be having a good HPA axis regulation. There may not be a good feedback loop system. You may not be able to get the nutrients inside the cell, or you may not be able to have the available nutrients, or you're not producing quality cortisol hormones, or you're not clearing it out of the body, or you're repairing the cells for neurotransmitters and hormones to bind to the cell membranes, and it's not having a proteomic effect, meaning it's not working inside the cell. If that's the case, the same things that were causing this to break down in the first place, inflammation, stress, environmental chemicals, toxins, pathogens, food sensitivities, crappy foods, physical traumas, emotional traumas, chemical disruptors, all of these things, they're not just going to stop and end at the adrenals. They're going to impact your body at the cellular level. And it's going to impact your body's ability to breathe. Really, it's going to impact your body's ability to use oxygen to produce ATP. That goes deeper than the adrenals. That's a mitochondrial problem. Now, in the medical research, again, mitochondrial problems are problems that are major, diseases. Again, you don't have to have all shades of black in order to have shades of gray. You can have changes that are coming towards changes in black, but it still takes gray to get there. And the example I use, I talked to someone about this today, is the fact that that's like saying, hey, listen, your son, he's getting a D plus or a C minus in his schoolwork, and we're not going to say there's a problem until he's failing the grade. And until then, we can't help you. And that's the way the medical model is set up. And when we do help you, it's going to be medications and drugs and surgeries, and it's not going to be nutrients because we don't get profits in those. And I'm sorry to talk like this, but that's the way it is. So back to the original problem is that it doesn't just stop and end at the adrenals. It goes much deeper than the adrenals. And until you start to understand that the system works in an orchestrated manner, it involves inflammation, it involves energy production, it involves neurological coordination, it involves immune coordination, it involves cellular detoxification, it involves micronutrient absorption, it involves all of those things. And until that happens, you're not going to fix the adrenals by taking adaptogens. It's not going to happen. And then the third one is that doctors, they don't use all of their tools in their toolkit, or they don't go and expand their toolkit, and they're not working at full capacity. And that's really looking in the mirror, because we have to bring up our game to help you, to let you know that you're not crazy, that we haven't figured it out yet, that there's an epidemic of environmental chemicals and toxins and pathogens and crappy foods, and really not focusing on the body as a whole. And we're telling you that we don't find the magic silver bullet or smoking gun in your body. And if we don't find it, you're crazy, and we're not. Doctors aren't working at full capacity. They're not. And that means a paradigm shift in terms of how we do histories, how we look at the environment combinations, how we look at how all the systems in the body function. Great to have specialties, but terrible at the fact that the body is a generalist. And really looking at the genetic component. I won't stop saying that, but We do genetic components on every single client that we work with now because it's that important. People ask me, well, why do I need that? You need that because I want to see how your body's handling stress and how it's set up to handle stress, because ultimately you have a stress-related illness that your body is not able to maintain its own homeostasis. And if you have a susceptibility to genetic enzymes not being able to be repaired, you could have a problem with dealing with stress. You can have a problem with neurotransmitter production, which is your adrenaline and your dopamine and your serotonin and your GABA and all the things you need to handle an appropriate stress response. You could have a problem with your immune system, triggering the communicating messengers to help each other out and overcome a pathogen or a foreign invader. You could have a problem with repairing and replenishing and regenerating your DNA to heal. You could have a problem with turning off the expression of a virus. You can have a problem with using your nutrients to make energy. All of those things are going to be really problematic for a stress response, right? So you need to have a genetic test, because if you don't have a genetic test, then I'm not just going to look at your Dutch test or your saliva test and tell you, okay, you need to be put on licorice root, adaptogens, bioidentical hormones, and see you later, don't let your door hit you on the way out. It just doesn't work that way. So anyways, to summarize this, basically we have the fact that adrenal fatigue in most doctors' mind is not a real thing. Number two, it goes deeper than the adrenals. And number three, doctors aren't working at full capacity. Those are three things doctors hope you never know about when it comes to an adrenal fatigue problem. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja. And if you have a adrenal fatigue problem and you need someone to support your problem, and you want to be able to look outside the box, and what I said today makes a lot of sense, then sign up for a no charge, no obligation. We're doing 30-minute consultations now, not 45 minutes. But because they have to be for people that are serious and that are looking to get their health back, they're going to show up coachable, they're going to show up decisive, they're going to show up resourceful, and they're going to be ready to make the next step. If that sounds like you, go to thetruthaboutadrenalfatigue.com/apply, thetruthaboutadrenalfatigue.com/apply, and sign up for a free 30-minute consultation and be ready to have the idea of where you are now, where you want to be, and why you're not getting there. And if I feel I know I can help you, then I'm going to tell you what it's going to take. So once again, I hope you found this very helpful, very enlightening. Make sure you like or comment or subscribe to our YouTube page, and I look forward to helping you end your adrenal fatigue nightmare. Take care.